Fish sticks are the most recognizable frozen food, second only to dinosaur nuggets. And fun fact, fish sticks are made from a super sustainable fish called the Alaskan pollock. The Alaskan pollock is located in the northern Pacific Ocean, and their fisheries are well documented and well managed, which allows them to be collected sustainably.
The U.S. is largely a success story when it comes from a conservation perspective when it comes to implementing sustainable management.
For many, many years, China has been a top exporter for fish. In 2022, China's total output of fishery economy was $428.7 billion US. And this actually makes sense when you look at China's fishing policies, because there aren't a whole lot, which allows for corporations to take advantage of that. A majority of China's fish is from long-distance fishing, so rather than local fishing, a huge portion of China's fish income comes from fishing thousands of miles away. And because of a lack of fishing laws, so much of it is unreported and unmanaged, and it makes overfishing such a high probability in those areas.
There's two different ways you can overfish a stock of fish, a species of fish. You can either just straightforward overfishing. You can just be taking out more fish than they're replacing each year. That's called growth overfishing. And then there's also recruitment overfishing, where you're taking the fish before they have a chance to reproduce in a given year. In both of those cases, the result is that this year, let's say you have 100 fish, and then you take out 70 of them, and then those remaining 30, let's say they each replace themselves. Then next year you only have 60. This year you had 100, next year you only have 60.
The reason overfishing is so bad is because fish are a primary food source for many different animals. Birds, seals, whales, other fish, humans, and many other animals eat fish. And it goes beyond just that. Crabs, bugs, and lizards feed off the scraps dropped by migratory birds, and smaller animals feed off the leftover remains from bigger predators. If these predatory animals starve out because fish disappear, it will have a global impact. And if it wasn't already bad enough, when all these environmental factors add up, the ecosystem will collapse. And when the ecosystem collapses, the industry loses money because it's not getting fish. And all these people who work for the industry will become unemployed because there isn't any funding for their industry. And then everyone who relies on the fish that are imported from these industries will be forced to struggle and look for a different food source. And of course, these workers within the industry rely on their work, just like any other working person. And they would be hit very hard if fishing companies were to shut down. But that's the hard truth. There isn't really a sunshine happy ending. On one side, you have the death of virtually all wildlife on Earth. And on the other, you have millions of people going into debt without jobs and millions of more not being able to provide food for their family or themselves. But something needs to be done regardless. Today, we are here at Simpson Park. It's one of the many parks in the St. Louis County region, and it has a big lake with a lot of fish in it, like sunfish, bass, there's probably some crawdads. Missouri has a lot of fishing regulations in lakes like these for fish like bass, trout, basically any organism you can find in a lake. And what these regulations usually are is some are seasonal based, where you can't fish, say, a certain type of bass from the beginning of November to the end of January, but really it could be any time in the year. There are also fishing licenses that you can buy for the state or the county, which is basically an exchange of money saying, hey, I promise I'm going to abide by the rules. And then there are also amount-based regulations, basically saying there's only a certain amount of fish that you can catch, or if there's a limited amount of fish you can catch of a certain species. There are also places like aquacultures or fish farms where they raise and farm a population of fish. And what these places actually do is they have fishermen come in and take fish from their farm to then sell back into the local economy. The really good thing about this is it takes the attention off of big corporations and places it back in small communities.
If you can pick something that's caught locally, and that's lower on the food chain, you can be fairly certain that you're picking something that is a sustainable choice. And the more we can be choosing those sustainably caught aquatic foods, and the more we can be asking for them at our grocery stores and our restaurants, the more that demand will filter up and out to the fishers themselves and to the policymakers who need to be supporting those fishers in transitioning their methodologies.